Flyers have 3 first-round picks, 4 second-round picks. How many of those picks did they actually make?
I'm going to say 5.
Wow.
I'm going to say four or 5. I think it'll be
Okay.
4 or 5. And I'm not going to say which round they're going to be in.
Okay.
I think
I
honestly,
won't pigeonhole you there.
honestly, I could see them doing something with all 7 of those, and either using them at the draft, using them to acquire, current talent that can help them next season, or kicking them down the road to next season. I could see. I think all 3 options are available. I do not believe they will make all 7. I would be very surprised if they made all 7, just from a logistical standpoint, because at some point, that 50 contract limit still exists, right? And if you're taking 7 guys in the top 2 rounds, those are guys you expect to be part of your team moving forward. And we can all kind of do the math and say, well, they're going to add in between, so there isn't going to be enough room at the end for all 7 of those guys, and you're going to have to do something. So I don't envision them making all 7 draft picks.
Yep.
But it's going to be really interesting to see what exactly they're able to do with them.
I was going to say it would almost be organizational malpractice to make 7 picks, but I don't know if it would. The real thing here, I think, is if you are a Flyers fan and you're committed to this idea of them doing whatever they're supposed to do to make this team a viable contender. It's unfortunate in a sense that they've not mistimed this draft, that they've mistimed what could have been an elite draft. This just doesn't seem like it is an elite draft. The idea of punting a pick or 2 into next year and having those potential lottery, scratch offs or whatever to try to go up and get McKenna, to me is like significantly more interesting, because ultimately, like, I don't know where you're at, and obviously haven't gotten to free agency yet or any of that, but I think that Briere is going to do enough with this roster and is going to try to overhaul it enough that they're going to either be just outside of the playoffs or they're going to be just inside the playoffs. And either way, you're not going to be able to get Gavin McKenna with that pick. I don't know. Do you view this offseason as one that Briere is going to start to move and shake a bit, and maybe they will be I'm not going to say a playoff shoe-in, but the East wasn't exactly great all year. Do you think that there's a likelihood that they try to actually make that push in earnest? Obviously, with a big eye on 2026 when they have all this cap that's going to free up.
I think they have to. I think Michkov in the season he had kind of changed the calculus a little bit there, where you didn't think you were going to get him until 26. So now he's here and he has a Calder-worthy rookie season, and you assume he's only going to build on that and get better.
Not a finalist, though. Not a finalist.
Well, I don't have a vote, so I can't say here, you're there, or whatever. Yeah. But again, that's just one trophy. It's just 1 year, so it doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme. But the fact that he's here and he's productive, and you've seen what he's capable of with, again, no offense to Sean Couturier or Morgan Frost or the other guys that he played with guys who are not elite level centers. Yep. You wonder what more he can do when he gets guys who are more simpatico with his game and how he likes to play. Now, that kind of behooves them to get a center. Whether they get that center through the draft, through free agency, through trade, however they do it, I think that's really, going to be plan number 1 for them if they can do it. And if they can upgrade it for this season, that's great. If it's for 2 seasons down the line, that's okay too, because Matvei Michkov will still only be 22 years old and still in the prime of his career. Not only that, you still have Tyson Forrester very young. Owen Tippett is signed through a long time and he's still young. Travis Konechny is still on the younger side and he's signed long term. So you are still set at the forward position. And Noah Cates also, I hate to overlook Noah Cates, but for long stretches of the season, he was their number 1 center, and that line was their best line with Forrester and Cates and Bobby Brink. So, does that mean Noah Cates could be a number 1 center? I don't know, but I think he'd be a pretty solid number 2. So I don't think they're as bereft at the position as a lot of other people. I think there is some work to be done. And look, if you can get an ideal number 1 center, for sure, I think this is the right time to do it again, because you have Michkov at the right time. You're catching him on the upswing. So I think one way or another, there is going to be a center added to the organization. If it's through the draft, through a trade, through free agency, or maybe two of the three. But I think you're going to see their number one center at some point along the lines here by the end of the draft period.
To me, it would be like, I jokingly used the phrase organizational malpractice before, but like if they don't have a center for this kid in the next year or two, that's an actual, call it what it is, like an actual, it doesn't have to be fully elite, but like a legitimate 1C on the team, then you are committing organizational malpractice. Like you have to give that kid somebody to play with, because if nothing else, you're inhibiting his potential growth as a player by not having somebody who's up to snuff, So
I think there's two things there. I think, yes, in an ideal world, you do want a number one center to play with your transcendent, talented winger. But I'm also old enough to remember when Craig Conroy was a number one center on a team that got to Stanley Cup final, when he was riding shotgun with Jerome McGinley. You just need someone who matches Michkov and what he's able to do. And I think Sean Couturier really gave you an example of the right kind of center to play with Michkov. A guy who, for all of Michkov's talents, one thing he is not is a speed burner. Like he doesn't have the wheels of a McKinnon or a McDavid. He's more of a cerebral player, slow the game down, bring everybody to his pace, kind of like Panarin. I know John Tortorella used that comparison a lot. You don't need a center who's going to be a race car. You need someone who can just match him. And, I think you can find that guy. And it doesn't have to necessarily be an A-plus all-star center you're bringing in. It's just a guy who is good enough and can understand how to get him in the spots he needs to get to be successful, to maximize Michkov's talents, as you said. And Sean Couturier in the short term, yes, I think he could be that guy. But I think long term, they do need a better option there who's, going to be in the same age frame, in the same sort of developmental model, who can kind of grow along with Michkov. And I think that guy's out there. I think that's going to be their focus and what they try to do and where they try to upgrade.
I give it practically a 0% chance, but again, I like to manifest things. The guy that I'd be very interested in, he'd have no reason to come to Philadelphia, none whatsoever. I could certainly justify a 9 or 10, maybe even an $11 million cap hit for 3 years to try to get John Tavares to play with Michkov as the short-term stopgap guy. And I get that, like, in theory, I think he's making, 10.5 this year. Do you want to get to a place where you're setting a very uncomfortable number? Like, maybe not. But with the cap going up, that's a guy who, like, can still pot 30-plus goals, can still help grow a young winger. Like, I don't know if there are other guys on the market or that are going to hit the market or going to hit the trade block that kind of fit that same timeline, that same kind of skill set. But to me, like, that's where maybe you get a little bit interesting this offseason. But he's not gonna come to.
I have a hard time. I think his first and second choices are going to be Toronto. I don't know if the money is going to work because they have other obligations, be it Marner, be it Nice, be it finding a defenseman or whatever else they want to do. But yeah, Tavares, like, and I know he had 38 goals this year. I don't know how sustainable that is at his age.
Yeah.
But he does play a lot like Sean Couturier does, where he's going to slow the game down, control the pace of play, and be a guy who can make the teams adjust to him rather than him adjust to the opposing teams. Yeah. So
he has actual gravity to him,
right?
In the offensive zone, yeah,
right. And the other thing is he understands he's at a point in his career where he's smart enough to know that he can defer. He doesn't have to be the big time goal scorer. That he can move the puck and, maybe he'll get it back, maybe he won't, because Michkov's just gonna put it on net. But Michkov's good enough to score, and he'll do what he has to do to get him in position to be as productive as he can. I think he's capable of doing that. And look, yeah, on a short-term contract, for sure, he would be a guy that you could bring in, and he's got leadership qualities. He's a steady hand in the room, and I know how much of an emphasis they put on having the room be what the room has become and a real solid, steady citizen. All those things, he checks all those boxes. I don't know if he has any interest in playing anywhere other than Toronto, and we'll see where that leads.